What if I told you that most businesses fail, not because of a bad product or weak leadership, but because they choose the wrong way to grow? Some companies insist on building everything themselves and waste years, while others rush into acquisitions that turn into disasters. Then there are those that rely too much on partnerships, only to find themselves stuck without real control. That's exactly why Laurence Capron wrote Build, Borrow, or Buy, to show companies how to make the smartest growth decisions. This book isn't just about theory. It's packed with real case studies of companies that made billion-dollar mistakes and those that made billion-dollar successes. If you've ever wondered how businesses like Apple, Tesla, and Starbucks got it right while companies like Nokia, Kodak, and Blockbuster failed, then stick around. Because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what separates the winners from the losers. Laurence Capron is a professor at INSEAD, one of the world's top business schools. She spent years studying how companies expand and found a simple but powerful truth. The best businesses don't just rely on one strategy. Instead, they know when to build capabilities internally, when to borrow through partnerships, and when to buy through acquisitions. This sounds simple, but most companies get it wrong. They stick to what they're comfortable with, either always building, always borrowing, or always buying. The result? They fall behind competitors and eventually collapse. Capron's book provides a structured decision-making framework to help businesses avoid this trap. Before choosing a growth path, companies should ask themselves, do we have the internal capability to develop this? If yes, build. Do we lack the capability, but can access it through a partnership? If yes, borrow. Do we need full control and have the resources to acquire? If yes, buy. Now, let's break down each of these strategies with real-world examples. Apple is one of the most disciplined companies when it comes to deciding when to build, borrow, or buy. Let's talk about the M1 chip. For years, Apple relied on Intel for processors in its Mac computers. But Intel's delays were slowing Apple down. Instead of waiting for Intel to improve, Apple built its own processor, the M1 chip. The result? A faster, more power-efficient chip optimized for Apple's ecosystem. But Apple didn't always build. When it needed high-performance chips, it borrowed ARM's architecture rather than designing everything from scratch. And when Apple wanted to strengthen its chip development, it bought PA Semi, a semiconductor company. That acquisition helped Apple transition into developing its own processors. The lesson? Apple is incredibly strategic. It only builds when it has the time and expertise, borrows when it makes sense, and buys when acquiring another company will accelerate its progress. Tesla is another company that's a master of growth strategy. Many assume Tesla builds everything itself, but that's not true. When Tesla first started producing electric cars, it didn't have the ability to manufacture its own batteries. Instead of spending years developing that expertise, it borrowed it. Tesla partnered with Panasonic, one of the world's top battery manufacturers. This allowed Tesla to scale production quickly while focusing on car innovation. But once Tesla had the experience and resources, it built its own battery production by launching gigafactories. This approach allowed Tesla to move fast. If it had insisted on building everything from the start, it would have taken much longer to establish itself. Then there's the buy strategy, which Tesla used to enter the solar energy business. Instead of developing its own solar panel technology from scratch, Tesla bought SolarCity. This gave Tesla an immediate presence in the market. This is the perfect example of how a company can start by borrowing, then building, and finally buying to scale further. Now let's talk about Facebook, now known as Meta. Facebook has grown largely through the buy strategy. One of its smartest moves? The acquisition of Instagram for $1 billion in 2012. Many thought Facebook overpaid, but today, Instagram is worth over $100 billion and is one of Meta's most profitable platforms. But not every acquisition works. Look at Microsoft's $7.2 billion purchase of Nokia. The goal was to become a major player in mobile. But Microsoft struggled to integrate Nokia's technology and culture, leading to one of the biggest corporate write-offs in history. The takeaway: buying is powerful, but only if the company has a plan for integrating the new business effectively. So what happens when companies choose the wrong strategy? Nokia is a classic case of a company failing to borrow or buy when it should have. When Apple and Android started dominating the smartphone industry, Nokia stubbornly built its own operating system instead of adopting Android. The result? It fell behind and eventually exited the mobile business. Kodak made a similar mistake. Kodak actually invented the first digital camera in 1975, but instead of embracing digital technology, it focused on building its film business, believing that digital cameras would hurt its film sales. By the time Kodak realized its mistake, companies like Sony and Canon had already taken over the digital market. And then there's Blockbuster, which had the chance to buy Netflix for just $50 million. But Blockbuster executives didn't see streaming as the future and declined the offer. Fast forward a few years, and Netflix is a multi-billion-dollar company while Blockbuster is gone. These failures highlight a key lesson. Companies that don't adapt their strategy, whether by building, borrowing, or buying, will fall behind. So how can businesses make the right choice? Capron suggests a few key questions. 1. How much time do we have? If speed is critical, borrowing or buying might be better than building. 2. Do we have the expertise? If not, borrowing or buying may be the smarter choice. 3. Can we afford to buy? Acquisitions can be costly and risky. If a company can't manage integration well, buying might not be the best move. This book isn't just for CEOs. The principles in Build, Borrow, or Buy apply to entrepreneurs, investors, and even career professionals. If you're starting a business, should you build your own product, borrow technology through partnerships, or acquire an existing company? If you're an investor, is the company you're investing in making smart growth decisions? Even in your career, should you develop new skills yourself, collaborate with others, or hire experts? The Build, Borrow, or Buy framework isn't just a business strategy. It's a decision-making tool for anyone looking to grow. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you seen businesses succeed or fail because of their growth strategies? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's best business books. Until next time, make smart moves and stay ahead of the game.